Hello. So this video series will be focusing on how to play and how to win air arcade matches in War Thunder. Now in this video, I'll be covering keybinds and basic maneuvers. So first off, under options, there are a few settings that you should change. First up, under common battle settings, this one right here, join already active battles. You want to switch that one off because in arcade matches, every second counts. And the matches usually don't last that long. So you want to switch that off. Next, under air battle settings, this one's a little bit of like a personal preference, but the crosshair usually by default is this one right here, this X cross. Now, usually it obstructs what it is that you're shooting at, so I prefer to use the circle with the dot. The crosshair color, I choose this bright green. It contrasts better with the background and usually targets that you're shooting at. Makes it easier to see where your aircraft is pointing at all times. Next, under battle interface, the ammo indication, I think by default it's not always on. I'm not sure how it is with the latest updates, but you want to make sure that it's always on. It's very useful to have. In air arcade matches, you can reload, so it's good to know how much ammo you have at all times. Okay, now on to controls. Now, most of this can be considered personal preference, but this is how I have it set up. It gives me more control than the default settings that War Thunder has. So first off, we have the A and D keys. Now, this controls the roll of the aircraft. Pretty sure this is what the default setting is too. What is the major difference is the W and S keys. Now, by default, when I first started playing the game, this controls the throttle. I've changed this to control the pitch. Now, of course, usually people can have it inverted, but for me, W is pitch down and S is to pitch up. Next is the Q and E keys. This is to control the rudder. Now, the throttle, instead of W and S, for me is shift to throttle up and control the throttle down. I have C to keybind it to look around. I think this is also the default control. So you press and hold C, and if you move your mouse cursor, it doesn't move the aircraft anymore, it just moves the camera around. V is for toggling the view. So for this example, in the A20, you have gunner views, you have two gunners. So pressing V once from third person view sends you into the gunner view. And if you press it multiple times, you switch to the cockpit view, to this altimeter view, and then back to third person view. Now for spacebar, this is for the bombs. I don't have any rockets on this, but for me, the number 4 key is for rockets. R is for reloading. F is for flaps. G for gears. Left mouse button to fire guns. Right mouse button to view zoom in. And the middle mouse button is for target selection. So in arcade, if you select a target, if you just look in the general direction, press the middle mouse button, you get this view. It will tell you what the target is and how close it is. And you can adjust the settings to provide more information, but this is usually just enough. If you press and hold, you can then drag it around, give you more control over what it is you're selecting. Now, I have 2 extra keybinds which I can't show on the overlay. First one is switching secondary weapons. You can find it under the weaponry tab under controls. It is right here. I have a Logitech G502 gaming mouse, so I have multiple buttons, and this is what I have it keybinded to. What this allows you to do is, if you're flying an aircraft that has multiple secondary weapons, usually you'd have to memorize the order in which the ordnance drops. So for example, in the B-34, you'd have to drop the 500-pound bombs first, and then the 250-pound bombs. Now, if you find yourself in a situation where you need to switch that around, By pressing this button here, keybind it, it will allow you to toggle and select which bombs to drop first. The exit selected weapon mode, this one switches it off, so if you're no longer using it and you find that it's a little bit troublesome to keep on switching through, you can keybind this to any key that you want. I have it set to this. It's the asterisk on the keypad for me, so it switches off the switch secondary weapons mode. The second keybind that I have is the small caliber guns. So, for example, in the P38, you have a 20mm cannon and the 50 cals. So usually you want to, well, for me, I like to conserve the ammo for the cannon for situations when I know that I really need to hit this guy and kill him. I have it keybind it to another mouse button. So this allows me to just use the 50 cals first if I'm strafing ground targets and I don't want to use the cannon ammunition. And if I'm going air to air, I'm switching to air to air, then I can just left mouse button, fire all the guns. Okay, so now on to basic maneuvers. So first off, turning. So lift is created by the wings, and it's created upwards in relation to the orientation of the aircraft. So if you want to get the maximum turn rate, you will want to turn upwards in like this. You don't want to, for example, if you want to turn right, you don't want to pitch down like this. Now this is very inefficient, and it's quite slow as well, as you can see. Now, aircraft orientation is important for two things. One is for turning, as I just demonstrated there. The second one is for weapons. Usually bombs, which is going to be your primary weapon for ground attack. It is the most efficient for ground attack, that and guns. Bombs usually under the aircraft. If you're inverted, you're not going to be able to drop bombs or any other kind of suspended ordnance. Rockets you can, but bombing is going to be where the most work for ground attack is going to be done. So understanding how to orientate the aircraft using your A and D keys most of the time is very important. Okay, so situational awareness is very important. Okay, so most of the time you're going to be using your C key or whatever keybind that you have to look around. You'll be using that and your mouse to look around, to identify targets and identify threats as they appear. Now what this means is that you're not going to be able to maneuver normally by using the mouse cursor by pointing it in the direction of where you want the aircraft to turn, because you'll be preoccupied looking around. So how you maneuver is, for example, if I identified this target here, I now have eyes on it. Now I'll use the WASD keys to maneuver the aircraft while keeping eyes on the target until I get around. This way I can still look around, I can still maneuver freely whilst looking around. It's not only important for ground attack, it's also important for dogfighting as well. So let me reposition here to these aircraft in a moment. Okay, so let's say that I'm engaging these friendly targets here. I'm using my C key to look around for threats. I've identified the threat. Now I'm using the WASD keys to maneuver in to attack. Now if I get around to uploading gameplay videos, you'll see me doing this a lot, using the WASD keys to do most of the maneuvering rather than the mouse. So this concludes the first video in this series. Thanks for watching. Just to add some extra notes to the last part there, looking at, whilst dogfighting, looking at the opponent is very important, because you need to know what he's doing, right? What kind of maneuvers he's executing, which way his aircraft is orientated. So it gives you, it telegraphs, well, most of the time telegraphs what it is he's trying to do. That way you can look at him, see what he's doing, and maneuver your aircraft to counter his moves. Yeah.